Day one of the NHL draft is in the books as we prepare for day two. There's all kinds of NHL players who have not yet been moved. We saw lots of trades at the draft, but they all involve picks and not existing NHL players. Today could be very different. We have speculation that Rangers captain Jacob Trouba is likely to be moved. Plus, we still haven't seen movement. We have the latest on players like Marty Necas, as well as Jacob Chychrun. You get Rickard McGroarty in Winnipeg. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. Plus, we have a pretty wild rumor of something that almost happened at the draft and a few more signings as well. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, as we prepare for day two of the NHL draft, we're going to do a rundown here of some of the rumors, what we're hearing that could happen today, and of course looking at some of the things that almost happened yesterday and that could carry over to today as well. So first up, a couple of signings that took place pretty close to the draft getting ready last night. The Edmonton Oilers have re-signed backup goalie Calvin Pickard. Of course, he emerged as a pretty good option when they had to put Jack Campbell down to the minors. Pickard came up. He's over the age of 30, has a lot of experience, a lot of which lately has been in the minors. At one point, he was a regular NHL goalie, but then the last number of years, he's been more of a minor leaguer with a little bit of call-ups. But he proved to be a pretty valuable piece when Skinner was struggling. He went in and played a couple of playoff games and did very well. So they gave him a 2-year contract extension at $1 million. This is, I think, a pretty good deal. I think he's earned it. Secondly, if for any reason things don't work out, that contract can be buried as well. I do suspect as the buyout window prepares to close tomorrow that you're going to see some more players bought out, and I would suspect that Jack Campbell, the Oilers, will be a prime candidate for that to open up some more space. I know the Edmonton Oilers also are expected to do some other things today, which we'll get into here in just a few moments. Florida also re-signed defenseman Matt Kiersted. He gets a 2-year deal. Year one's a 2-way contract, but year two is a 1-way contract. We also learned that the San Jose Sharks re-signed Luke Kunin to a 1-year deal at $2.75 million, and they're also not going to be giving qualifying offers to Filip Zadina or Jack Studnicka. So both those young players will become unrestricted free agents. So for Filip Zadina, in the 2018 draft was expected to be a top 5, top 6 pick. Slid a little bit down to Detroit. I know there were fans of teams like Ottawa or Montreal who both passed on him. Of course, Ottawa took Brady Tkachuk. Montreal took Kotkaniemi. And say what you want about the Kotkaniemi pick, that still worked out better than Zadina. So at the same time here, he fell to Detroit. Detroit ended up passing on Quinn Hughes. I thought they were going to take Hughes, especially with the connection to the University of Michigan and everything there. And Ken Holland, who was the GM at the time, thought Zadina was a gift. And I remember listening to his comments, and that did not work out. Zadina was quoted after talking about some of the teams like Montreal who passed on him, said he's going to fill their net with pucks. Well, that has not happened, Philip. You have not filled anybody's net with pucks. I watched him play a fair bit when he was with the Halifax Mooseheads. I honestly thought he had a little more potential than what he's shown. The concerns, though, was that he was more of a perimeter player. And definitely had some skill, but the strength and the ability to take it to the net and to play with older, stronger players was definitely a concern. Whereas you wouldn't have had those concerns with a guy like Brady Tkachuk. In Montreal's case, they took Kotkaniemi. Well, they were drafting really more by position, even though not something you normally do at that point, and then that high in the draft. But didn't work out for them. But this one would have worked out even worse. At least they got some compensation for Kotkaniemi during the whole offer sheet scandal there with Carolina. A bunch of other stuff here today. One, there's a major rumor of something that almost happened, which would have set off some fireworks here the first round of the draft. We heard there was a lot of chatter, a lot of smoke around that number 4 pick held by Columbus. We knew that new GM Don Waddell was open to making a big splash, and he almost did. There was a lot of intriguing offers, including Carolina being in there. There was some talk around Marty Necas. Obviously, that never happened. The Flyers were pushing to get up there as well. We don't know exactly what was all being offered. There was a variety of picks that the Flyers had multiple first and other rounds that were on the table here. I don't know what all ones were exactly confirmed, but I believe there was the Flyers 2 first and another one. Like there was going to be about 3 picks going to Columbus, and they had turned it down. Apparently, Chicago. This was the one that really would have been probably even a bigger deal. They offered an unprotected 2025 first-round pick. Now, Chicago, will they be better next year? Yeah, probably. Are they going to be better enough to be out of the bottom 5 of the league? Hard to say. I'm going to say probably not. And they offered an unprotected first-round pick plus another pick to Columbus for number 4 overall. So they would have picked 2 and 4. And plus, they already worked some other magic into the first round and ended up with 3 first-round picks. Obviously, that all wouldn't have played out this way because they likely wouldn't have had some of those assets could have been involved in this trade. But yeah, Chicago was trying to make a big move. I suspect they were obviously quite content to take Levshunov at number 2, but sounds like they definitely want to get one of the big forwards with Lindstrom or Demidov. So Chicago almost pulled off a major blockbuster there of the draft, but it did not happen. Now, the big trade rumor this morning out of the New York Post and Larry Brooks is that the Rangers, we've heard that they're not only trying to find a move and shopping Jacob Trouba, it sounds like something's lined up. And now it may not happen here for a couple days because his trade protection in his contract changes on July 1st. So I don't know that this is going to happen today. I suspect it could, but I'm more likely in a couple days' time. But it's believed that the Rangers captain will be traded to Detroit. Now, we saw Detroit make that really weird move with the Sharks, sending Jake Wallman in a second-round pick for future considerations. That was a pure cap dump on Yzerman's part. We've heard Yzerman and Mike Greer, the GM of the Sharks, both interviewed about this, and the responses were just really weird. Everybody's kind of shaking their heads here. I think this is part of their effort to open up space to take Trouba from New York. Now, it's believed that the Rangers are going to retain money on Trouba, retain around 31%, which would knock his cap hit from $8 million down to about 5.5. So that will free up $5.5 million of space for the Rangers, assuming they don't take a contract back. We do not know what the return is going to be, but it's believed that is something that's in the works. Of course, Trouba, that's probably one of the places he would accept a trade to with connections to Michigan. We know that he kind of forced his way to the Rangers, holding the Jets kind of ransom there when they had to move him when he was a restricted free agent with hard rights and wasn't going to re-sign as they moved him to New York. And the return hasn't been horrible, but it could have been a lot better, especially considering he was coming off arguably his best season at that point, and he's definitely regressed. There's no doubt. And obviously, it's time for him to move on. So that's how Chris Drury feels about it, and he's pretty close to making it happen. So expect the Rangers to trade Captain Trouba with retained money, knocking his salary down to around $5.5 million to Detroit sometime here in the next few days. That might be on July 1 or after, when the trade protection and Trouba's contract does change. That's coming from Larry Brooks of the New York Post, who obviously always usually very well connected with Rangers intel. So I suspect that's very likely going to happen. What the return is, I don't know. I'm guessing if there is a return, that it's a pick, or maybe it's a prospect, or maybe it's something small. I don't think it's going to be anything huge, because I think this is more cap dump. The Rangers definitely want to bring back Patrick Kane, who we know, of course, most recently played with Detroit. I don't know that Yzerman's closed the door on Kane, but Drury definitely has interest there. I suspect if those two are talking, that Yzerman's not going to help Drury open up a whole bunch of cap space to take Kane if he wants to keep Kane himself. So I suspect that decisions have already been made in that front. And Steven Stamkos, of course, getting a lot of attention at this point, is expected to hit the open market, and the Rangers and Detroit are both teams that are supposedly interested. I'd also watched Nashville. Stamkos is reportedly being offered a $24 million contract by the Lightning, but it's over 8 years. So the cap hit would only be $3 million. There's no way Stamkos probably plays for 8 years, I wouldn't think. Obviously, I think this is a case of them offering him a long-term deal just to keep the AAV down. I think Stamkos probably would prefer like a 3 or 4 year deal, which is more realistic to how long he'll likely play, at least at this kind of a higher level anyway. Obviously, health will play a big part in that, and how he feels and how he's still playing. You never know. Father Time does catch up to everybody, and is still currently reigning undefeated over the course of history here. So at some point, Stamkos will slow down, although he's still playing at a very high level as of right now. So, hard to say, right? But, Stamkos can get the same kind of money on a 3 or 4 year contract than he can from the Lightning on an 8 year deal. Then that's going to be more appealing to him and gives him more options to possibly make even more after that if he does decide to keep playing. I don't know if Tampa will make another stab at this. They haven't made any cost-cutting moves. I would suspect if we see moves today, which could involve players like Tanner Jeannot or Connor Sherry, then perhaps we will see them open up some space to change that offer to Stamkos before the bell opens on July 1. But right now, it's not looking good for Stamkos to return. But we thought that last time, and he ended up re-signing at the 11th hour. So we'll have to see here what happens. But the Rangers in Detroit, as well as Nashville, are the main teams so far, at least, that have been mentioned. But I suspect the list of people that want to talk to Stamkos will be quite long. But right now, things are still progressing in the fact that Stamkos likely not back. But like I said, we've seen a miracle before. Could it happen again? The Philadelphia Flyers are still reportedly trying to move Morgan Frost. We'll see if that happens. That could very well happen for a prospect or a second, third round pick. Something that very easily could happen on day 2 of the draft. Ottawa is trying to move Matthew Joseph. It's believed the request for that player is also like a mid-round pick. So again, that's something we could see happen today. Jacob Chychrun of Ottawa's name is still out there. No guarantee he moves. It's not a for sure thing that he will, but we know that the Senators would like to change their dynamic of their back end and preferably add a right shot D. We know they're one of many teams that are in on or hoping to be in on Chris Tanev, but again, that's going to have some pretty stiff competition there. I know Dallas is pushing to keep him. Toronto certainly would love to get him. Brad Treliving would like to go after Tanev and Zadorov. There's no secret there. So it's hard to say what kind of competition. I don't know if the Senators really have great odds. Speaking of the Senators, they're also linked to Tanev's brother Brandon, who very well could see himself move to Ottawa today, could also involve a prospect or a mid-round pick as well. So certainly keep an eye on for those names. Chychrun, I was previously linked to like LA, Philly. There's other teams too. Florida to some degree. The Florida Panthers are definitely shopping Aaron Ekblad. That's still out there as well. He could move today. I don't know how likely that is, but it's believed at this point they've kind of lost hope to sign Brandon Montour, unless they have a last-minute deal that does involve Ekblad going. Montour will hit the open market. It will be one of the top right-shot defensemen on the market as well. The Panthers are believed to have some sort of agreement, even though it hasn't been announced yet, with Reinhart. I fully suspect that Reinhart would stay. They have a rumored extension lining up here for Verhaeghe, so those two will remain pillars there in the Panthers lineup, and then some other names would be the ones that can go. I don't know if Tarasenko will be able to stay. That's debatable. Then you got Montour, Ekman-Larsson, Stolarz, all expected to most likely depart via free agency because they'll be able to get more money somewhere else. So we'll see. But Askarov, is another name to watch. The young goalie, Nashville. After they are reportedly signing UC Saros to a mega extension, there's belief that they are willing to move him. They were willing to move him last year at the draft, so I really think that their intention to sign Saros all along was legit. Except they've never received an offer that they feel is justified to move Askarov. So we'll see. But he's another young goalie that could involve other young players or picks in a trade. So again, Marty Necas is another name to watch. He wasn't traded in the first round draft part, so I don't know. I mean, it's believed that they're definitely going to want a first rounder out of Necas. If he does go today and it involves a first round pick, it's going to have to be next year at this point. Or I just don't think there were all the reports where he doesn't want to go back to Carolina. So as much as they might have desire to keep him, I don't know that that's going to really work out. I mean, they're going to end up putting on a 1-year deal, and he's going to walk next year. So I still think that they find a way to move Necas, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. Today would be a prime time for that to happen. And, of course, the Jets never moved on from one of their top prospects, Rutger McGroarty, who speculation has it wouldn't sign there. There's been lots of teams reportedly interested. I've heard probably a list of about 6 or 8 teams that had relatively serious interest. Heard Boston, heard Minnesota. We've heard a couple of the teams in like the Islanders, Devils. We know Montreal never made their big splash yesterday for a top young player. They did get Demidov in the draft, and maybe after getting their guy at 5, they decided that maybe that's good for now, and maybe they don't want to move more assets to get another one. I don't know. It could have been the price tags too, but Montreal definitely will be a team to watch today, whether it's McGroarty or Necas. I wonder about Trevor Zegras too. Hasn't moved yet, of course. But looking at how the Ducks have drafted the past couple of years, I just don't see Zegras as being the style of player that they want. They're trying to build there in Anaheim the kind of team that Pat Verbeek wants, which is a highly skilled but a big, strong, heavy team. Looking at their picks today or yesterday, they're the team that stepped up to get Solberg, the big punishing defender, like the prime example. They don't seem to be fans of the smaller skilled players. They maybe to some degree they can have a little bit of that, but they prefer the big body, highly skilled guys. Like obviously, like Leo Carlson's not a massive guy, but a very well-rounded player. Not the same kind of guy as Zegras. McTavish is big. Look at some of these other guys that they're picking here in the draft. So, like at the end of the day, this team wants to be a highly skilled, big, heavy team, and Zegras just does not fit that. Like they want to see if he can change his game to be more well-rounded, and that's going to take time. I don't know. I still think Zegras will get moved. It's just a matter of to who and where and what the return would be. Hard to say. So lots of interesting names still very much out there in the market. The Edmonton Oilers front CEO Jeff Jackson was asked about some of the rumors about signing some of their pending UFAs like Connor Brown, and he did acknowledge the fact that nothing was imminent at this point, but they were having good conversations, and they were expecting to hopefully keep everyone, is what his quote was, Elliot Friedman, on the Sportsnet Draft Day coverage yesterday. So for that to happen, there have to have some other moves be made for sure. So I do suspect to see the Oilers make some other announcements today. Like I said, the Jack Campbell buyout. I wouldn't be shocked to see a player like Cody Ceci moved. I would suspect he would generate a return of a mid-round pick or prospect or something. So a Ceci trade, I do wonder if they'll ask Evander Kane to consider waiving. I don't know, especially where he is needing a surgery. I don't know if they can really do that, but something's got to give in Edmonton. There's going to be, if they want to keep all their UFAs, then they have to find a way to cut some costs elsewhere. So I think a Campbell buyout and Ceci are the two more obvious ones. We'll see if they do anything more beyond that. Next, the big rumor today is Trouba. So I suspect that to go down soon. Otherwise, we'll see what else is going to happen with all these other names been in the rumor mill for some time. So let me know your thoughts on all of the potential exciting trades we may see here in day 2. Let me know your thoughts on day 1 of the draft as well in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.